I had no idea. Well, I always keep forgetting we have a TikTok. We never plug it. Shout out our social media team, whoever they may be. It's us.
Hey, Terry the intern.
But apparently Baby Nut's doing numbers. Is that what I heard? Is that the rumor on the street?
The reports from our analysts say, well, I don't have them up, but
it just makes them up.
It's got like 10,000 views, like 1,200 likes, 50 hours of watch time.
Wait, 1,200 likes? So people liked it too? They weren't just watching it?
Over 50% of the people that watch it watch the entire video.
So it wasn't like an Emily in Paris season 2 thing where they hate watched it. It's getting a season 18 or something.
No,
it's like people
Thank
like it.
you for using the correct name.
Yeah, I got you.
Because everyone's like, oh, Emily in Paris. And it's like, no. Clearly they were going for the rhyme.
Yeah.
Matt, what did you think about Emily in Paris season 2?
I didn't watch all of it. So.
Wow. Oh, wait, will you watch some?
Wow.
Yeah. I did.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I got
curious.
Curious. Then
Can
I got
ask why you stopped? Why'd you stop?
I have a job, so I had to work.
This man can talk about Baby Nut on a full bracket. When it comes to Emily in Paris season 2, he has a job to do.
With that, hello and welcome back. We're the Tough Cut Podcast.
Follow us on TikTok.
This is episode 50.
Whoa!
And I'm Matthew.
And I'm Alex.
And I'm Jake. Follow us on TikTok. I don't know what our TikTok is. That's why I was. What's our at? Is it just
same as every single social media we had?
At Tough Cut Pod. I don't know. Maybe you did something fun and quirky, like at Tick My Pod Tough TikTok.
Anyway, so as I said, this is episode 50. We're getting pretty old, and this is part 1 of our remakes bracket. What the heck does a part 1
we didn't
mean,
announce
Alex?
the bracket or anything. That's pretty crazy. This is our remake bracket. So we picked movies and we also picked their remakes, and they're going head to head in round 1. So starting off today, we've got Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan versus Star Trek Into Darkness. Later on in the episode, we've got Suspiria 1977 versus Suspiria 2018. So lots to talk about today.
Yeah. And guys, spoilers. We're going to be spoiling these. And some of them, they got twists in these movies. There's a lot of twists. I also want to give out a content warning.
There are also some gruesome twists in Suspiria.
Yeah. Suspiria, honestly, both of them more so. No, honestly, both of them are pretty gory. One is like an older gory where like you could tell it's kind of Pepto-Bismol blood, and the other it gets real intense. It got some really like gnarly, awesome special effects that they did. So yeah, just keep an eye out if you're sensitive to anything like that, any like body horror. Suspiria. Both of the Suspirias have quite a bit of body horror in them, just in case. So we love you. We care about you. We want you to watch along and listen along, but take care of yourself first.
The other little one I will call out that I just saw as I was looking back through my notes. If you are photosensitive, right. Star Trek Into Darkness has a really, really, really bad moment of flashing lights. So be aware of that.
So does Suspiria 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true too.
They both do.
Yeah.
They
So
both
it
do.
applies. I missed that one. But yeah, I jotted it down for Star Trek.
Too busy looking at bloody titties.
Hey, it's a spoiler. But we just gave our spoiler.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
we didn't.
There's bloody titties in Star Trek.
Matt might have a job, but he's always got time for bloody titties.
Quote, put it on a shirt.
If we ever sell merch, we're not selling that shirt. Hey, Alex, do you want to go ahead and introduce our 2 Star Treks?
Absolutely. So we've got Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, released in 1982, directed by Nicholas Meyer. Captain Kirk is an admiral now, and he's bored and doesn't get any fulfillment from his life. And the crew of the Enterprise is like, hey, Kirk, come see what the Enterprise is up to now. Meanwhile, Khan is brought back into the fold. Kirk's
Thanks, Jake.
greatest nemesis, Khan. There's also a machine that creates life, and that's pretty cool. I don't know. Should I say the big spoiler from the end? I think it's relevant. I think the spoiler at the end is relevant. Spock dies at the end of this one, and that's a big deal. He comes back later in.
I didn't watch it
in later Star Trek movies. Well, that's going to make it hard to talk about.
Considering the third one is literally titled "The Search for Spock," I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No, it's such a short movie. They go to his grave and they're like, "Oh,
I forgot." They had a little bit of a bender at his funeral.
At his funeral.
This is going up against Star Trek Into Darkness, which was the second
you don't
movie
don't want to know our thoughts? You don't want to know our thoughts and feelings?
Well, I was just going to do all of it at once. I mean, I guess you guys can give your thoughts. It's different because I pitched both of these movies. We don't usually do it this way. Yeah, what do you guys think about Wrath of Khan?
Well, what do you think about it first? Yeah, I picture Khan as like a hey man, like in the Jewish faith for Purim, when you say hey man and like they go boo. That's what I picture whenever I hear Khan. I feel like I have to go Khan.
Yeah.
This was so what are our thoughts? That's what we're saying.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
So I generally, I am not like the biggest Trekkie in the world or anything. I've seen a good number of Star Trek properties, movies, some episodes of the TV show, and I generally enjoyed this. I do think the thing that it is probably for huge fans of the series, super, super brought up by, but for someone who's a little bit less familiar, brought down a little bit, is there's clearly so much history between all of these characters, and being a little bit less familiar with the context. It's like knowing that there's so much more behind all of this, and like the things people say to each, it's like the comment you made about Lord of the Rings of like why Gimli's comment means so much is because you have all this additional context. And I felt like I was missing some of that in this movie. Nonetheless, I still had a lot of fun. I still think this is such a good version of Khan. And man, oh man, do I love William Shatner. He's just so good. I had a lot of fun with this.
Nice. Jake, how about you?
Yeah. Don't worry, Alex. I watched a decent amount of Star Trek. I wrote a fucking essay on it in college, but mine was about BDSM. So I don't know how helpful or applicable it's going to be to this conversation. I'm hoping a lot. But the movie, so I kind of have a controversial maybe opinion on this where like I objectively know there are really great things about the Star Trek movies and series. Like the acting is it is solid with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. Like I know it's solid. I know the writing can be solid. And genuinely, like the technical terms, like they are building a world. But even with all of that, I kind of slogged at the end. I was just still and maybe it's kind of leaning more towards Matthew's thing where it's like if I wasn't hardcore invested, there was a lot of time wasted, I felt, in this movie. And there was a lot of just like, it was slow for me, which is so wild because, and I'll talk about it when we introduce Star Trek Into Darkness. But that's basically my thoughts now, and I promise I'll explain more in that regard.
Super quick interjection. It's so funny that you think the last third is a little slow because I think the first third until they finally actually get to Khan, like he's actually introduced. I'm like, okay, come on.
I meant there are slow moments. Like the beginning has that one throughout the movie. Because there's that one they're like crewing for the spaceship, and it's just like, okay, I get it. They're in space. They're not adding story to it. They're just showing us we're flying the Enterprise, and like here we are. Whereas in like Into Darkness, when they do that same kind of thing, we get story beats of like, okay, now Chekhov is there. Scotty quit. Blah blah blah. Like there's actual like story beats, but I don't know. Let's talk about it.
It breaks my heart that you're saying it. Wait, I just gotta respond to that real quick. It breaks my heart that you think that because like those points are meant to be like, oh, you've seen these characters do this stuff so many times in the other movie and the TV show and all this stuff. And it's like meant to be this different spin of like, how does Kirk feel now that he's an admiral seeing this? Like him feeling like he's on the outside of it. Like it's so thematic and good. But Star Trek Into Darkness, it's in the reboot series where it's kind of just like a wacky timeline and things are slightly different because of time travel. So I guess what happened? What happened in this movie? There's like another admiral and he's like secretly evil. He woke Khan up to be like a secret weapon. And then Khan is going to take him out because he's holding his crew hostage. And then Khan turns on the Enterprise and is a big baddie. And then they stop Khan. And this time Kirk dies, but is brought back to life with Khan blood. Which is a fun little plot. It like an interesting way to kind of bring back the like life motif that they have in the first one, but without like just doing, oh, this is the Genesis machine, just doing the same thing. It's pretty interesting in a very funny way. It is the polar opposite of what Jake said about Wrath of Khan feeling slow, because this one is literally nonstop action. The last like, I don't know, hour and a half of the movie, which really is like 2/3 of the movie, is just action sequence after action sequence after action sequence with very little drama and stuff in between. But that being said, I think they're really strong and effective action sequences because they are able to effectively add themes and emotions and stuff into them. I think it's a pretty good movie. Yeah, what'd you guys think of this one?
Matthew, you should go first.
Oh, no. So this movie, I don't remember like the reboot Star Trek series super, super well, because I thought I'd seen this movie, but I don't think I had. I think I might have seen the third one. I've definitely seen the first because I remember that one very well. And this movie was just like, I don't know, pretty dumb, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
which I feel fun. Yeah, like, man, I think the action is by and large fairly well done, and I think Benedict Cumberbatch is just hamming it up. He's just going for it out there, which is just a kind of a pleasure to watch.
Be Sherlock. They were like, be Sherlock, but in the future. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, because they introduce him and it seems like he's going to be like calculating and manipulative and like use others to his purposes. And then just 85% of the time, he's just shooting shit and punching dudes. And I'm like, this feels a little at odds with how they introduce the character. He's done like 2 total manipulations.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun.
And the manipulations they do are so obvious. It's like, hey, don't trust Khan. He's going to turn on us. And then he does. And it's like, okay.
Dumb and fun is how I describe this movie.
So I'm really glad you said that, because I feel like I feel like kind of a little like dirty, because I genuinely loved Star Trek Into Darkness way more than Wrath of Khan, and I know that I had the stupider time. Like, I've never felt as young as I have watching a movie, because here's the thing: I watch these back to back, and I'm like, I'm already having more fun because there's brighter colors and the score is more like lively and it goes bang bang. And I do that. Like, I'm like, oh, shit.
Jake's like Cold War analogies and like any kind of like consistent theming. He's like, no thanks. I'm in for
which is why when we talk about the later half of this thing, I'm going to totally change my tone. But like, I don't know. And, you know, even like, okay, so this cast is so fun also, and I feel like which is wild. This seems so unfair because there's all of Star Trek for the other one, but I felt like they gave the other crew way more to do in this. Like, Scotty and Chekhov actually get stuff to do, and like, you know, Sulu, you know, mans the ship, and like Carl Urban from The Boys is like, I'm Carl Urban from The Boys.
He was Carl Urban before The Boys when this movie was out.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, I think only Leonard Nimoy, like the Spock is, Leonard Nimoy is better than the Spock, in my opinion. 110%. And like William Shatner, it's very hard to be better than him. I think Chris Pine's charismatic. I just don't think he's Kirk in this. I think he's
a very
sexy
different
swagger,
Kirk.
man.
It's a very different Kirk.
He is, which you guys counter to the characters I don't want to go as far to say identify with, but, you know, love my charming rogues. But William Shatner's Kirk, man, it's so good.
Okay, here's where I'm coming into this from, because I picked this matchup because I like generally enjoy the Star Trek reboots, and I know that Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan is supposed to be a very good movie. But whenever I saw it growing up, I was like, oh, this is a movie my dad would like. I'm just gonna play my Game Boy while this is on the TV. And this is the first time I've ever like actually sat down and watched it, and I really liked it. Like, it was a really good movie, guys. Jake, I'm talking about Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, no, I'm still talking about Into Darkness.
Yeah, I know. But like, I was just, because I always see William Shatner as like kind of this joke actor. Like so just like campy and like melodramatic and ridiculous. My dad has like this album of music that William Shatner recorded, and we would like listen to it on trips. So like, I've always kind of had this joking kind of mindset whenever I think of William Shatner. But like in this movie, yeah, he is like melodramatic and stuff, but he's like actually a good actor. Like, he does a really good job. And I don't know, like there's just something about it. And then comparing Ricardo Montalban's Khan to Benedict Cumberbatch, God, the power of Ricardo Montalban's character, like that Khan is so powerful. The intensity with how he speaks, his character is so strong. And I compare that to Benedict Cumberbatch. It feels so bland. It feels like oatmeal that's really strong. I don't know.
He's out there punching dudes, my guy.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, I know it's going to sound so dumb, but here's the thing. I will give credit. The Khan and Wrath of Khan, his like manipulation, like, or not manipulate, like his first introduction scene where he's talking to the crew, I was like, oh, this is captivating. It went on a little long, in my opinion. I was kind of like, all right, we get it. You're doing your thing. It was like a 15-minute, this is Khan. And he had some great lines. I mean, revenge is a dish best served cold, and it is very cold in space. That's a badass villain line in a sci-fi movie.
It kicks
That's
ass.
fucking metal. But here's the thing. At the end of the movie, he's just reciting Shakespeare and like bleeding to death all the time. And Benedict Cumberbatch was fighting and doing flips.
Okay, but here's the thing. Yeah, can you remember, does Benedict Cumberbatch have one cool line like that in this movie, Jake? Right now, off the top of your head.
Yeah.
What's one cool thing he says?
Yeah. He says, I'm Khan.
Thanks.
Hi,
my name's John Harrison, but you may know me as Khan.
Okay, but here's the thing. Khan smushed someone's head.
Yeah, which...
That's really cool.
I actually want to talk about that a little bit. So I understand, as Alex said when he was introducing these movies, that the new Star Trek canon is in like the wacky Star Trek universe where things are a little bit different. They're just so light on what it is that why Khan is like Khan.
Yeah, they do not explain the difference at all.
He just looks like Guy, but for some reason he's just smarter and faster and stronger and better at shooting and better at punching, but then loses to Spock in a fight. And well, I guess Uhura comes down and shoots him. So that's really, I don't know, man. It's just not explained.
Because it's Benedict Cumberbatch.
Which might be the exact thing Jake likes, is just like, it's dumb time. I'm turning my brain off and I'm just going to watch him go.
Well, it was just better to me than the inverse of like, he said, the other Khan said like 40 times during his death.
And I'm like, other Khan was too pretentious for you.
Jake, yes. He doesn't say the. He doesn't say the. He says the.
Okay.
In the dramatic voice that captivates you.
Well, that's the thing. Shatner and this other dude. What's the name of the person who played Khan? I feel really bad. Ricardo Montalban. They're all Shakespearean actors. Like that's what people like about like their acting, and I get it. I literally wrote in my notes. I know they are classically better trained than a Chris Pine and a fucking Ben Cumberbatch man. But
Benedict Cumberbatch is definitely a classically trained actor, 100%.
Okay, he is, but not in this movie.
I'm pretty sure isn't he literally part of like the British aristocracy?
Okay, I'm
like
talking
he's
about
descended from nobility.
I am talking. Benedict Cumberbatch does not exist outside of this. You have to understand. Benedict Cumberbatch didn't say one D. Okay, he didn't. I paid attention to it.
Yeah, because they made him do a dumb American accent half the time.
Also, his hair was pretty long.
Yeah, he had the little swoop things. I thought Matthew would like that, though, because I've seen him with that hairstyle before.
Yeah, that's kind of what made me bring it up.
I'm sorry. Like, look, I'll give another credit. Like, the Kobayashi test stuff was pretty cool. And, like, talking about the Kobayashi, the Spock death was very moving, even though I know that, like, he comes back. But like it was really cool in Star Trek Into Darkness for the remake. They were basically in a Kobayashi test, which was very awesome and very cool to see. Like they had the whole like there's a lose-lose scenario here, and then like seeing how Spock would do it.
Yeah, they're referencing Wrath of Khan.
No, I know. No, I'm saying it's a remake. Like I'm trying to gear us back towards that it's a remake, and we're actually talking about these movies.
Yeah, we're actually.
I can go back to Boom Boom. I can go back to it if you want.
No.
I you know what? Okay, head empty.
Film brain, Jake.
Benedict Cumberbatch did a fucking flip, and it was really cool. In the beginning,
anyway,
he took out all those Klingons.
It's a good action scene. It's a good action scene.
You lost me again. It's a great action. You remember when they were flying in space? That was real.
Anyway, I just think that these are tough for me because on one hand, I had like so much fun with Into Darkness and how absolutely brain dead it is. It's maybe being a little too harsh. And on the other hand, I feel like there's so much I missed by the fact that I'm not as familiar with the source material as they want you to be. Particularly like the highest emotional scenes of the film being obviously Spock's death. And then you could probably throw Captain Kirk being like, this child is my son. And he's proud that he has me as a dad, as like, you know, high emotional beats. I feel like they don't hit as hard because I'm less familiar with the character relationships. And this movie is not, it does not want to hold my hand and be like, well, here's how they connect and here's why they like each other and here's all their history, Yeah. Which I think is tough. And then by comparison, I don't know if there's particularly complex relationships going on in Into Darkness, because I think they go for some of the same through lines with Spock and Kirk. And I don't know. I don't know if I would go as far to say that those are, even though those aren't banking on you having a bunch of foreknowledge, I don't know if those are as emotionally impactful. I guess there's also part of me that was like, I know for sure that Kirk's not going to die.
Yeah.
Right, but Spock is, going through his journey.
Going through his journey? What journey are you talking about? The Zachary Quinto
how
Spock?
Well, no, how he's like, like how he's like talking with Zoe Saldana's character about like he was so like he had to shut off his emotions about like, I wasn't afraid of dying, or like, like I chose not to feel. And how do you choose not to feel an emotion? Like I genuinely think he did have stuff to do. Just Spock had more stuff to do. Chris Pine was just all Chris Pine. But I generally think Spock was probably the heart of this movie.
I don't know. I feel like for a lot of the runtime, they backseat him and then pull him out in the climax to sort of try and resituate him as like the emotional core. And I don't know if it's executed as well as the movie wants it to be.
Yeah, they use Spock in this movie to be like it's more of a
in the very beginning, he almost dies.
Be like, well, but that's the thing. It's like an audience fill-in to be like, oh, don't trust Khan, but also we love you, Jim. Like that's what the whole thing is.
Well, I just felt like it was like he almost died and he was going to choose to die. He has a problem with protocol and like rules and stuff. And then his like fucking his partner's like, you literally didn't think of me. And then Kirk is also like, there's like, yeah, you didn't, like, you fucking ratted on me. And that's the through line for the whole thing. It's like, I lost my position, getting it, and then the revenge, and Spock not understanding. It's like, why are you fucking acting with emotion, and we're not supposed to kill this person, and blah, 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 and them trusting each other. I do think Spock through the movie has an arc, and like, or has a lot of emotional weight and stuff to do throughout the whole movie. I really, really do.
So here's what I'll say, and this I just want to say this last thing before we vote. Star Trek Wrath of Khan makes such an incredible choice. At the funeral that they have during the movie, they play Danny Boy as the song. It's just like, how many years in the future is this supposed to be where you still just play, oh, Danny Boy, the pipes are calling. Like, that's the instrumental that's playing, and I just think it's absolutely wild. So funny.
Do you think Spock would have wanted bagpipes at his wedding? Or not his wedding, his funeral?
His funeral,
Do you think that's what he wanted? Because I was going to say no. When I heard the bagpipes, I was like, why? Awesome choice, but no way he wanted this.
I think he probably would have specifically forbidden it. And the rest, and who's playing them? It's Bones is playing it, right?
Probably, yeah. Or Scotty, maybe.
Oh, yeah, it's probably Scotty. I don't know. Yeah. That would make sense. Yeah.
No, I like Bones.
And they just independently decided, now this is what everyone needs.
Are we ready to vote?
Yeah. One has Benedict Cumberbatch. All right. Yeah, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, go for it, Jake.
I'm voting for Star Trek Into Darkness, man.
It would have been so funny. This is a off the record joke. It's so funny if you're like, one has Benedict Cumberbatch, and it's like, okay, go ahead. You're like, Wrath of Khan. Oh God, I need away from that man.
No, I fucking loved Benedict Cumberbatch in this. And the crew has shit to do and all that stuff.
For me, this is where I'm torn. I think that Wrath of Khan is a much, much, much better movie. But I did have quite a bit of fun with Into Darkness. At the end of the day, though, I think I have to vote for Wrath of Khan.
The grumble from Matthew.
Yeah. Because I think I'm in a very similar position, Alex. I think Wrath of Khan is a better movie. I definitely had more fun with Into Darkness, and I'm not sure which way my scale goes.
Look, sometimes movies are about just, fun.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna vote with the passion, vote with the absolute ape brain that I've got going on, and say that, man, Into Darkness is just so dumb, but so much fun. Wow. I don't know. Go watch it, I guess. And go watch all of Star Trek. And the other thing I wanted to call out before we say goodbye to Wrath of Khan for now, but its spirit will live on through Into Darkness, obviously. Leonard Nimoy, obviously, has passed away. Go watch the Star Trek with the Whales. That's part of the original series of films, because he wrote that one, I believe. And the environmental message was something that's very close at heart for him, or was. So it's pretty cool, And I believe, was Into Darkness the last film that came out while he was alive, the last Star Trek film?
I believe so.
I'm not sure.
I do want to say
we can chime in on that later. But yes, with that, Into Darkness advances. Sort of, I'm sure both of them will come up in some capacities because it's remakes. How do you talk about what has been remade without talking about the original? With that, Jake, do you want to go ahead and introduce Suspiria?
Yes. Oh, God, what a tone shift we're about to enter.
Before you jump into this, actually, I do want to call out another thing. Go watch Suspiria. Go watch both of these, please, audience. Literally one of my favorite movie endings, perhaps of all time, or at the very least in recent history, happens in one of these movies. It just needs to be seen.
Right.
No amount of description will ever communicate it properly, because it is a fucking spectacle. So go watch these.
So yeah, I'm really excited about these. I've been waiting to talk about Suspiria. Either one of them, I'm so glad it's both of them in some way, shape, or form on the podcast. But Suspiria, the original, 1977, by Dario Argento, is an Italian filmmaker. Susie travels to Germany to attend a famous or a ballet school, but as she settles in, people start dying off, and she slowly uncovers its dark secrets as she fights for her survival. Yeah, so the caveat, I will say this is Italian cinema. And oftentimes, I don't know if you guys know this or research it or whatever, because I'm sure when you listen to it, you're like, what the fuck am I listening to? They oftentimes don't record sound during takes. That's a real thing. And they have people recite their lines in their native tongue because they have Spanish speakers, Italian speakers, like all these things. And then the own actors dub their own performance later. And so they ADR everyone, and that's why it's varying qualities, because some people do things either way or whatever, and they have everyone individually do it. And in my eyes, it's a shame. It's a shame if you can't move past the awful ADR, because the atmosphere of this film is what I love so much and what I hold so dear. From the soundtrack to the color and all that stuff. I love it. I think it really, really is one of those early examples of what makes a cult horror classic. Like, definitely, like, okay, certain people are gonna like this, and certain people are so not. Yeah, exactly.
Suspiria is this. You're talking about the 1977. This is a movie. If you watch the first 10 minutes and don't like it, you will not like the rest of it.
No, you will not.
Yeah. So I'll let Alex go first, so I can have a nice little dessert with Matthew.
Sure. Yeah.
What do you think of this movie?
I did not like this movie. Well, okay. Actually, so I'm torn. I didn't mind the stuff that I think you guys would expect me to not like about it. I didn't mind the crazy intense score where people just go, witches. I didn't mind that at all. I didn't mind the gore in it. I thought the gore was I don't mind this kind of gore, the very cheesy, makeup heavy kind of stuff. I thought it was pretty fun.
Practical effects from the 1970s.
Yeah, I had a good time with that. I just thought it was really slow. It just felt
you just hate the story, right? It's the story that sucks.
Not even not even necessarily the story. I just think the whole movie could have been 40 minutes shorter. There was a lot of very slow,
very short movie.
I mean, there were just a lot of very
Alex's
slow.
Perfect version of this would have been a 50-minute long.
At the beginning, there were just so many shots where, and I don't know if you guys got the same vibe from this. I think if the score was totally different and the dialogue was totally different, but it was shot the same way, this looks like a movie musical. They do so many shots that are slow pans of the person as they're standing up, walking, or it literally feels like a Disney movie in real life, the way that these shots are oriented a lot of the time. So half of these scenes where it's this intensity is building, it just feels like they're about to break out into song, and it felt ridiculous to me. But that's where I was with this one.
Okay. We'll I'd love to hear Matthew's thoughts now as we move forward.
So, as longtime listeners to the podcast will know, I love weird movies. I love just feeling strange. And Suspiria fits that bill so well. I think this movie is fantastic in a lot of not necessarily unconventional ways, but in my opinion, it is like a audiovisual feast with the score and the lighting and the use of color. And by the same stroke, it does this really fascinating thing where I actually think the weird ass ADR audio like adds to how strange and surreal this movie is. I texted Jake while I was watching it and I was like, what the fuck is going on with the audio? Like, why does it sound like that? Why is the dialogue like that? And I don't want to say it's to the movie's benefit, to because understanding the story a little bit better, because it's not exactly a complex plot. It's just sometimes hard to hear what on earth people are saying to each other.
Totally fair.
So I think it's very story light. But for this film in particular, I think that's okay. I liked the score. I liked the atmosphere that much that I was okay with what is perhaps the most egregious lore dump in a film, exposition dump.
Oh my god, yeah.
all time.
Yeah.
You basically have no idea what's happening. Just being like, general spookies are happening. Bad things happen to the dancers and people associated. And then a guy goes, yes, I've done long-time studies of Latin and witches. It's like,
okay. To be fair, you knew the whole time it was witches because the score said witches.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, the decision to use prog rock from a band called Goblin is so sick. The score is just so good. I think this film's atmosphere is just impeccable.
It's out of this world.
And very story light film.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, with that being said, I'll introduce the other one because there's just so much to talk about because this is a wild remake. Suspiria 2018 is by Luca Guadagnino, and he did Call Me by Your Name. Fun fact. Yep. This one is a young dancer, Susie. Arrives in 1970s Berlin specifically to audition for the world-renowned dance company. She vaults into the lead dancer role, and as the final show comes closer, the secrets of the dance company and Susie's destiny grow into the light. So this remake, I saw it at the London Film Festival. I was able to go when I was abroad, and I saw it, and the crowd reaction was so wild for this movie because it was basically just a bunch of horror fans in there. You could tell, like, all of them had like OG Suspiria shirts or like a lot of you could just tell. And the last 30 minutes of this movie, people are like, "What the absolute fuck?" And the reason why I think this remake is good is because it's radical. It respects the original by trying not to be it, but by expanding its lore in a way that isn't like offensive to me, but rather it feels like a puzzle. It feels like it filled in, like it actually focused more on story than it did on the atmosphere. And it's either I can understand people either saying that's to a fault or not. I really enjoyed it. It does get convoluted at times, but I thought there were so many parts of Suspiria 2018 that are so interesting and so well fleshed out, especially in accordance to the 1977 one. I really, really love it as a horror movie, just period. And the fact that it's a part of the Suspiria lore and, conversation, at least about it, is very interesting to me. Matthew, you can go first this time. What do you think?
Yeah, so having watched the 1977 version first, I think does this movie wonders rather than going into it knowing nothing,
raw.
At least in my opinion, because, raw. Because I had expectations of where the story was going to go based on that film. The preamble I gave to this section was that one of these movies has one of my favorite endings in a very long time, and that is this movie, because it just so thoroughly subverted my expectations by revealing Susie to be Mother Suspirium. and
big
just has
spoiler.
this.
But yeah, we already called it big. That's the big twist.
Yeah. And has this absolutely like balls to the fucking wall, just exploding people, just over the top final scene that I think pulls a lot of the thematic elements together in a really cool way.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's plenty, obviously, much like the 77 version as well, plenty to criticize this movie for.
Yeah.
It is, you could probably trim about 40 minutes
so
out
much,
of this.
Yeah.
I also think it gets really confused in a lot of its theming. I think it tries to bite off a lot more than it can chew, because it's like trying to tackle like motherhood and like abuse of power / fascism, and like, you know, it's built into like post-war Germany, and throws in some stuff about the Holocaust that's supposed to like be the, you know, like a thematic through line between what the dance company Marcos is doing, and they're like, it's trying to take on a lot, and I don't know if it succeeds in all of the thematic elements in the broad sense.
I could definitely agree.
But I do think it does a lot very well. And also just Tilda Swinton does so well. Also, in her 3 roles plays, in this movie.
3 roles in the movie.
Yeah,
so cool. I have fun facts about that I really want to get into, but I do want to hear Alex's thoughts. As well.
Yeah. So comparing it to Suspiria 1977, story much better, incredible, does such a better job. All of that being said, I hated watching this movie. This was
I'm so sorry.
Just absolutely terrible. Hey, let's think about giving members of the podcast similar content warnings when we're putting movies on.
I really didn't think about it, honestly.
Yeah, this was like brutal to watch.
Very, very graphic. It's not exactly, at least personally, I don't think this is like a scary movie.
No, it's not scary. It just sucks to look at. The end, honestly, is fine for me. Like when people are just blowing up, like
it's
great,
the dancing,
I can do that.
It's the Olga scene, huh?
Yeah, like when someone's body is just being contorted, like I don't want to do that. I don't want to look at body horror and stuff. And this movie has so much of it. And that just really sucked to watch, honestly, is where I'm coming from.
I formally apologize for that. I did forget about the Olga scene because I'm so entranced by the last 30 minutes of this movie that like
you forget
I tend to forget
how
it.
Shitty it is to watch the rest of it. To look at not watch the rest of it, to look at the rest of it.
Yeah.
Which are two different things.
I just thought like something that stood out to me because I didn't really look at like, I just knew Suspiria that I loved it. I didn't really look at the trailers and stuff before. And I'm used to the Suspiria, the OG, where it's like the colors are like so prevalent. Like the reds and the fucking greens are so
and this one's just like this mute
and this one
brown color palette.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so awesome. Well, at first I was like, okay, I don't know why they're like, I can get why they're doing this, whatever. But then all of a sudden when they finally bring in the red at the very end, I'm like, oh, fuck. That was really cool to do because they're not trying to do what, you know, the 1977 thing did, because I think it's a product of its time and I think it fits perfectly in its time. But I think that having that at least ending for that impactful scene was so amazing to include the color as an homage to the 1977 one. I thought it was such a smart and clever way.
Yeah, this is what I'm torn about, because I think in terms of a remake, I think Suspiria 2018 does a very good job handling everything that a remake needs to deal with, because it needs to make a very strong choice of if it's going to be exactly the same or what things it's going to change. And the things that it changes, it does in a very like strong and decisive way. Like you get the whole political debates between the witches throughout the whole movie. You see the like power struggle between Blanc and what is it? Mother Marcos. Marcos. And like they make that choice very early on that you're going to see that entire power struggle. And I think that's great. They make the choice of not coloring it, and that's great. They add an actual story, and that's great. But the body horror to me feels so unnecessary in it. Like those scenes are so visceral and they go on for so long. And the original movie did not have that. Like it seems like an unnecessary choice to me. And I don't know. It hurts.
There are dead ass, to provide some context. I personally, I tread a lot of horror, body horror, etc. Dead ass, the scene in particular Alex is talking about, the Olga scene, is like 3 minutes long of just watching a person be slammed and folded over themselves. It's a pretty intense scene. Yeah,
it is.
And it happens
as
in like the
to,
first half an hour of the movie.
Yeah,
it's like, or 45 minutes or so, because they meander a little bit.
It's as opposed to in the 1977 when like the girl jumps in the barbed wire pit and it's clearly not barbed wire at all, but she's selling the hell out of it. She's like running around. I mean, obviously it's not clear. She's not going to actually jump in it. But then I thought, I was like, man, how awful would that be? How awful would it be to jump inside barbed wire?
Oh, God.
That
sucks. Where obviously I know witches, like, I don't know, they conjured the barbed wire.
Yeah, that's the answer.
So actually, this is something I did want to talk about with these two movies, because most of the presence of the villainry, so to speak, or the abuse of power that's going on, of the dance company exerting its control over the dancers and the surrounding peoples, it's just like in Suspiria 1977, most of it's just like a guy or thing chasing people around. It does not feel very magical for most of it.
And then all of a sudden it gets like conjuring shit at the end, like barbed wire and like invisibility and shit.
If you think the barbed wire counts as being conjured, because you never see like magic of it popping up, she just jumps through a window and starts screaming.
Yeah, and then there's barbed wire all of a sudden.
I feel like she conjured that shit. I mean, like, why wouldn't she see barbed wire? Why wouldn't she see a room full of barbed wire?
In my head, I think I literally took notes about this. I was like, why is there just a bunch of barbed wire in there? I'm like, is that like a storeroom? Is she outside now? Where is this?
There's no way.
Either way, whereas Suspiria 2018 is much, much, much more upfront with the fact that you're dealing with witches. Obviously, you get it in the soundtrack in 77. But they tote the line on it a little bit more until it's revealed in the exposition dump. Whereas, like, the opening scene of Suspiria 2018, they tell you basically everything but the final plot twist, which is a really interesting approach. Almost like they know that you have the foreknowledge going into it. You've seen the other one. You know that these are going to be witches. Like, generally, Dance Academy, bad things are going to happen. People are going to start dying. And they're saving the big payoff for the end of, like, here's how we're, beyond visual elements or story elements, thematic elements, here's how we're really going to subvert your expectations from a plot perspective. Which I just think is very cool.
Yeah, I will say, even like another thing to compare about these things that I think is so great what the remake does is actually making dancing in the Dance Academy like make sense.
Yes.
And I really wanted this film to be nominated and win Best Choreography when it came out, and it got no love during the dance sequence, not even for like costuming, and it just like disappointed me so much, because the final dance with Mia Goth being in a trance, and like all the red, and like that was so beautiful, and even all the dancing was just so beautifully purposeful in this movie. And in the 1977, I'm like, there was no reason for this to be a Dance Academy. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's not like the dance is actually like in 2018 Suspiria, all the dance is ritual, like they are performing rituals through dance, whereas the 77, it's just like it happens to be a dance studio. Which is just, I don't know, that's kind of fun. They're just vibing, and all they want to do is just do one little sneaky little murder, and then she just kills Mother Suspirium. What the heck? So, it was that easy.
Here's one thing I'll say. And Matt, you said it earlier that Suspiria 2018 doesn't really feel like a horror movie in the same way. And I think it's because they pretty much tell you everything right away, like you said. In Suspiria 1977, I think one of the biggest draws for me is that even though, no, the narrative isn't that strong, what you do have in it is this suspense of you do not know who the witches are. Like, you don't know if it's going to be Olga. You don't know if maybe the roommate, Sarah, actually is one of the witches. Like, you don't know who they are. You assume that it's like the leaders, but you don't know the students. And I think that is like a very big draw for me for the first one or for the original, because in the second one or in the remake, you know who everyone is, right? Like, you don't have to worry about it.
It's not just you know who all the witches are, you also know where all of their like internal political allegiances
you see everything. And you know, like, you see the room that they're doing stuff in. Like, you see it all.
Right. But it's interesting because they want to talk about the power struggle, and especially with that ending, when you find out all who voted for Makros and like how they get punished and them like yelling that they voted and like their decree.
Because they fucking explode, dude.
Because they fucking explode. Yeah. And I also think like with that, just character wise, adding Tilda Swinton in this movie added so much more for the actual like dance part and also like protege. Like, I feel like having an anchor of like a good or a bad or good, like that kind of maternal relationship was so, I loved it. I loved Tilda Swinton being added or at least more fleshed out in 2018.
Yeah, because there's a Madame
is.
Blanc in both.
There's a Madame Blanc.
So
here's, but like Madame Blanc
my thing though about
shit.
Tilda Swinton in this movie. She is literally just playing the same character she played in Doctor Strange. It's the same character.
Yeah. The old man who was in the Holocaust.
A reminder, we're all Jewish.
Joke. She played 3 characters, and one of them was an old man.
Yeah.
By the way, I could not stand her voice as the old man.
Did you know? Okay, I have fun facts about that. I need to get it out because, like, this is why Tilda Swinton needed to be in this movie. One, so she insisted, like, her and Luca had a lot of talks about her, like, involvement. They were all, like, it was always going to be, she played both, you know, Madame Blanc and, like, Marcos, the disgusting figure, whatever. But they really wanted to avoid, because it's such a feminine movie, like, it's all about, like, women, it's mostly women, especially in Suspiria 2018. And so they convinced Luca and Tilda convinced them, like, oh, I want to avoid the male gaze as much as possible, so dress me up. And that was their, like, compromise for some reason. And so they also made, like, Tilda requested that they make her a fake penis and balls, a fake IMDb page, and she also wanted the publicist of the movie and everyone to claim that the actor, like, they made a fake old man actor, died in post-production, and to add a fake in memoriam for the character. That one didn't fly. But they did make the fake penis and balls and the IMDb.
Why? But, I just want to... I know we should talk about these movies a little more, but I just want to unpack that a tiny bit.
No,
why do you need a fake penis and balls?
Well, because there's the scene where he's naked during the ritual at the end. So she had to have dick and balls.
True. I forgot it.
Yeah,
but do we see his dick and balls?
Yeah, they show him like curled up fetal position.
They do,
and you see his dick. Like, they could have gone no dick and balls and had the leg.
I remember his dick and balls.
Oh yeah, I remember. It was pretty shriveled.
I remember his dick and balls.
I guess I was actually also going to bring up the scene where the witches were just they mesmerized the cops and they were just playing with his floppy wiener.
Well, no, okay, so I think is good and important that they did that, because you have so many scenes of naked women that it feels weird to have these male characters that they actively take control of and like torture, like they would, you know, I appreciate that.
The movie also does a pretty good job that essentially none of the nudity in this film is sexual.
Yeah.
Like, if you are getting your rocks off to Suspiria 2018,
Jesus,
whew, man,
yikes.
I don't know where you're at, but wow.
Yeah. we're getting kind of close here, and it's unfortunate because I genuinely do love both these. I mean, I'm a horror fan. You guys know this by now. Fans of the podcast and you guys, I have so much respect for 1977 and the atmosphere it creates with the score, and the colors are just it's just an experience, and I love it. But I have to applaud so much of the great things that I love about 2018 and what they added, and Dakota Johnson coming out of nowhere. This was my first thing fully seeing her out of 50 Shades. This was my first one post 50 Shades, and I was just like, that is so awesome. There was so much greatness about I really think it was radical change they made, but for an homage to the other one, and letting I think both of these films can exist in a way that they don't have to be pitted against each other, and I kind of love that. So I just love the remake for that fact.
They very intentionally do different things. As Alex pointed out earlier, almost as if the director, he very clearly was trying to act antithetically to a lot of the stylistic elements of Suspiria 1977, which is really cool. It does cool things because they work well together, because they play off your expectations of each other. Whereas, I'm sure we'll talk about it next episode, but a teaser to it. Whereas, I don't know, Star Trek Wrath of Khan and Into Darkness, they feel much more directly referential of each other. Whereas these are more at odds with each other, which is just cool.
Yeah.
So we are pushing time. I'm
ready.
I could talk about basically any movie for ages, but I have lots to say. If Alex is ready,
I'm ready. Are you guys ready?
Guys, Alex is ready. We got to get this shit going. You know what Alex is like when he's ready.
I'm ready.
Hit us with it.
Okay. I'm voting for Suspiria 1977. I could stand to watch it.
That's
the
totally
issue is
fair.
Suspiria 2018, I feel like is a better movie in general, and I think a very good remake, except for the fact that they made this choice to go so hard in the body horror, and it just feels so unnecessary to me. So yeah, 1977.
Yeah. I can go next. I apologize, Matthew. But
No, you're good.
I have to applaud everything a remake of something like this accomplished, even if it does have its faults. I think the way it was tackled was so brilliant. So I think 2018, I'm going to vote for that Suspiria. I think it's great.
And it all comes down to me. Being in the rough spot of having to come to a conclusion about these two films, that I think both do brilliant things. But I am nothing if not philosophically consistent. And so I think for this one, I'm going to vote for Suspiria 1977. I think there are so many super valuable atmospheric elements that make that movie so great. And I just want to talk about those more, because I feel like we haven't gotten a chance to really dig into some of the meatier bits there. No pun intended, because there were meat hooks digging into some bits in 2018. Anyway,
nice. I love it.
So
yeah.
2 episodes from now, catch Star Trek Into Darkness versus Suspiria in 1977, and 2 movies next episode that are going to be sick.
They're secret. You'll find out later. They're secret. They're secret.
It's definitely not, because we
movie.
haven't picked them yet. That would be crazy.
Guys, thanks so much for rocking with us into here. If you guys missed the bracket format, we missed it. We want to be back. Special episode 50. We're so excited to be doing brackets again. We love the bonus episodes. Please watch them if you just need time, to hang with us for a funny, whatever. Baby Nut got 10,000 views. So,
Yeah,
TikTok
cursed,
and all that
man.
jazz. But genuinely, we're excited to do the brackets into the new year. My birthday's coming up if you want to Venmo me money.
This is not the first time you've asked to be Venmoed money on this podcast.
This is in
won't
fact
be the
not.
last.
This is in fact not the second time, because I think the second time, Matt, you brought up that it was not the first time he has asked people to Venmo him money.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get a extraordinarily wealthy patron who will be like, yes, like in the Middle Ages. Why don't we do patronage like that?
Yeah, maybe
anymore?
some rich person will see our TikTok and be like, these guys deserve money.
Like Gal can dream. I literally have fantasies about that. It's really
you get the smallest eyedroppers worth of TikTok clout, and all of a sudden it goes to our heads.
Look, what if we got $1 per view? Imagine me having 10,000 extra dollars right now. Wow, life changing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure you get like pennies on the million on TikTok.
Oh, but so we were making money though.
Yeah, totally. Anyway,
hell yeah.
If you enjoyed today's episode, send it to a mother in your life, because motherhood is
do not denounce her, because then the witch might take over your body and you might blow some heads
in more ways than one. Yeah, and follow us on all the social medias at ToughCutPod. We're on all your favorite ones, even the ones that you spend way too much time on and you don't want to admit it. Anything else, boys?
Con!